That means we are off and running for Triple T number 114, March 5th, 2024. Holy smokehouse, as Papa would say. My name is TJ Zebel. I call myself a professional problem solver, but I always have to follow it up with, no, I don't know everything. I just have a unique way of asking questions until we can get down to insights for the answer. And if I don't have the answer, I have lots of people in my tribes that I can refer to so we can help you find the answer you're looking for. For those of you watching live on YouTube, hi Mom. Appreciate you guys showing up. Do me a favor and click the subscribe, ring the bell, leave comments, do all those good YouTube things. I do have a website, thetswb.com. That's right, the tall skinny white boy.com. That's what it actually stands for. Because I'm serial like that. Oh my goodness. Guess what I forgot? Y'all can chat amongst yourselves for just a second. I will be right back. Huh?
Pause.
Pause. Hey, talk about the good things that happened this week. I'll be right back.
So I got to go to Orlando this past weekend, and be a part of the Hypnosis conference out there, which was fantastic. And this is Chris, and I met him at the conference, and he's super, super helpful and brilliant. So I got to meet him and meet a few other people that I mentioned Triple T to. So I'm really excited that he's here. And both talks went well, and oh boy, did I learn a ton. So I'm very happy about that. Anybody else would like to share their positive or joyful thing for the week?
So you presented in Florida? What did you present?
My first talk was it was the first time I did a 90-minute talk, and it was Master the Art of Positive Self-Talk, How to Stop Negative Self-Talk. And the second talk was how holographic memory resolution can resolve trauma.
Did you record them?
I did. Were you in the Orlando area, Mike?
Not even close. I live in North Dakota.
That's not even a little bit close.
Not even, I mean, not even if you turn left. But I've been to Las Vegas and that conference. And I've always wanted to get to the Florida one, but I know it was this last weekend and no one reminded me. TJ, did you know that there was a hypnosis conference in Florida this last weekend? Yeah, and why didn't you tell me about it? I thought we were tight.
Out of all the things we didn't discuss the last month or 12, I completely forgot to include that in our list.
Okay, so I'm going to definitely put this on your review. But okay, well, I'll put you on probation. You keep me in the loop next time, then I won't, but I can't promise. Can't promise. It depends on you and your delivery of how that goes. Is that okay? Can we do that for me?
Well deserved. Well deserved. I appreciate you keeping me accountable. And the reason I had to duck out, Chris wouldn't know this, but started a thing this year where I wear a different tie for each one, and then I introduce the tie because I've got like 70 of them. So pick your favorite.
We're supposed to be keeping track of these? We have to keep a favorite?
Okay, which of those
who's your favorite on the tie?
On the tie. I'm gonna is Tweety Bird on there? Tweety Bird. If not, I would say Bugs.
I'll do the hunting pig.
Tweety Bird.
I'm doing tactical shooting, like you see on TV, the timed thing where you do an actual live gun and go through a course, shooting targets and stuff. It's really fun. So I'll take
super cool.
Yeah.
Did you know that
videos?
Did you know that my wife and I are both NRA pistol instructors?
Well, if the subject came up, I wouldn't be surprised knowing. That would be fun. Do you guys have any courses, tactical courses down there?
We're we belong to a range, but they don't have a tactical speed range, so we're gonna try and find one of them around here too. There's one on the other side of Dallas, I've heard, that I would like to go check out. So right now it's pretty static muscle memory type stuff, but
Okay. Well,
Chris
if you
is
want to come
going,
up here to the Northland, I'll on a certain time I can get you in.
right
They
on,
have them in Fargo too, so I'm sure they're all over. I'll do certain searching for you.
right on, cool. And Chris is going, what is the, okay, we've gone from hypnosis convention to ties to gun shooting. Awesome. Cool. When's the tequila show up? Well, about now. Anybody else got anything else they want to share from the last week or so before we move into the topics that I haven't typed? And Holly's got something to share, which means I can type in the topics.
And I do have some questions. Hopefully I'll remember them second hour. But I was really proud of myself because from a skill standpoint, I really struggle with certain things. But I won't get into a lot of detail. But I had something that I basically said, I don't need to know this. I could just say it's the other person's problem. And then I just kind of had during the night, I just had this thought of, I can't be that person who gives up and takes the easy route out and just blames the other person. And so I specifically, with one of my coworkers, decided to go specifically at that social skill and practice it. And it was so hard for me, but I will say, I thought I could never have results, and I got best results ever. So if you're ever in a place where you've tried, try it. You might surprise yourself. So, and I do want to welcome Chris as well. Here.
Thank you all. Appreciate the warm welcomes.
Oh, by the way, if I do go off camera, I can already hear my computer starting to open, so I might have to go to Avatar again.
We'll manifest a new computer for you.
Oh, I have singing bowls.
Right on.
So I can send a tone for you if you want. Would that help you? I can do that. Okay.
Super cool.
Gotta find a ring for it. To be continued.
Yes. Anybody else got anything before we move on to the topics of the evening? All right. Well, tonight I've had multiple requests to go back to the basics, covering language trifecta, self-talk, and manifesting your perfect partner. And when we get to the manifesting perfect partner, those that have been around Triple T, we're also going to cover sources of income and your tribe, because that's partners in life. But to start it off, language trifecta. Those of you that have been around Triple T for a while, know me well enough, know exactly what this is. Who wants to share what the trifecta are real quick? Come on, you know this stuff. Yeah?
Now you're testing my brain. 3 magic questions, echo technique, and values and criteria.
Yes! Exactly. Echo Talk, 3 magic questions, values and criteria, elicitation. Echo Talk, one of those techniques that should be taught to every human being on the planet, usually right after they learn how to say mama, dada. That would be a good time. There would be a lot less misunderstanding, a lot less arguments, a lot less issues, I believe, if we all could perfect echo talk. And for those that are watching the recording or watching out there who are not familiar with echo talk, it's been called many different things. Chris Voss, I forget exactly what he calls it, but he uses it big time in interrogations during his time with the FBI and military. And it builds very quick rapport, because the most important words that a person wants to hear are the words that just came out of their mouth. And after watching Dr. David Snyder teach this for many years, and myself teaching it now enough years, I recognize the pushback with my students and clients when I first start teaching this, because it's one of those techniques that sounds just too simple to work. It can't be that simple. It is that simple. And the biggest mistake that I've found that happens with my students and clients and those I've watched learning it is they look at it as something that they're doing to somebody. Please, if that's ever been on your mind when you've learned this, erase, erase, erase. It is one of the best gifts that you can give to the other person that costs you nothing. And echoing is different than reflective talk. The example that Dr. David used the most is calling into suicide hotline. And for a while, they were taught reflective talk. So it'd be ring, 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 suicide hotline. Yeah, I'm thinking about killing myself. Oh, so you think about taking your life? No, damn it, I said I'm going to kill myself. Because it's not a match. When it's not the same words, the mind has to take what was repeated back and try to judge, is this a match or not? Did they hear what I said? Did they understand what I said? Versus, ring, 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 suicide hotline. Yeah, I'm thinking about killing myself. Oh, so you're thinking about killing yourself? Yes. Exact match. Now, it doesn't mean that you parrot the person like back in the day when we were kids and you would repeat everything that the other one said in the same tone, and it would drive you nuts. What it is looking for the key words in what they said and including them back in the reply. Yes, Mike.
So you can hear me, yeah. So I'm wondering whether or not creating that dissidence is a way of trying to break the cycle and do an interruption, or is there an actual function to that? I mean, I could see how that might help break up the thought pattern.
I'm not following the reference to distance. Are you talking in using their words or reflective talk?
I apologize. Yeah, using reflective talk. Where you're getting it close, but just so there's a little bit of a dissonance. Do you think that would be a tool?
When the easiest way for me to answer that being used as a tool is when you understand the mechanics behind why echo talk works. Because when their exact words are given back to them, their brain doesn't have to invest any energy to figure out, is it a match or it's a match. And oftentimes, as Dr. David pointed out in many of his examples and demonstrations, it is so comforting that the person that you're echoing doesn't even realize it. And it got to be hilarious at times when we'd be teaching the technique and be echoing the snot out of somebody that asked a question. And everybody else in the class can hear it clear as day. And after a bit, Dr. David would go, "Did you hear the echoes?" And they're like, What? But that was where a number of the people that witnessed that mistakenly took it as something that you do to people as a trick. And they didn't understand the calming and rapport building capability that it has. And I've had a number of my students now, once I made sure that that was clearly understood, who got back to me and they're like, "Oh my gosh," and they've got amazing stories of when they went out. And I said, stop thinking of it as an action you do towards people. Learn how to do it as the only way that you have conversations. Because it should be the only way we have conversations.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
And I'm glad you verified that I clarified it for you, because I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you back. Thank you. And another thing is, practice this anywhere, anytime, all the time, with any form of communication. And I've got a number of stories regarding this, but I'll share this one real quick. Is one of my students, before we get to that, I want to inoculate you guys against one of the most common things when learning how to do echo talk. Understand, echo talk is like learning a new language, and you already know all the words. And the person that you're having a discussion with hands you 70% of the words they want you to use. But the problem with learning any type of new technique or skill, I call it the spotlight effect. Because it's new, you think everybody else knows that you're doing something, and the spotlight's on you. And in the 0.01% of the time that you're learning echo talk, and somebody may actually call you out on it, like, "Are you repeating what I'm saying?" "Oh, spotlight is this big, bright as the sun, right here. Oh my gosh." The only way you're going to ever get caught, and I promise you, with doing echo talk, is if you stop doing it when you get called out. Because then it proves that you were doing something that you don't normally do. And so what I teach all my students and clients is, because I teach this all to all my clients as well. If you're coming to me because you have anxiety, depression, PTSD, any of these items, How much better is your life when you can have easy discussions, easy conversations with people and build rapport just like that? Life suddenly gets much easier. And you can use it in email and text, and I've proven it. And here's the story I was going to tell you. One of my clients, when I told her that a lot of times I will do a copy and paste on a text, rearrange some of the words to make it a reply, and hit send. And she's like, "Get out!" I'm like, "No, go ahead, try it." The very next morning, I wake up to this reply on Skype, and she's like, "OMG, I tried it last night." Apparently, a friend of hers who they usually text for, 2-3 times, see what's going on. So I said, "I challenge you to try to get caught." So her friend texts, she's like, "Okay, I'm going to get caught. Copy, rearrange, paste." Now instead of just a couple of texts, the texts keep going on for 4 or 5 minutes. And she's like, "I can't believe this worked." And then all of a sudden, that text came in. "Are you repeating everything I'm saying?" Caught, spotlight, boom, sun, all the stuff. And then she remembered, the only way I'll get caught is if I stop doing it. The funny part was, before she could even get her next text reply in, they'd already sent in another text. It flew that low on the spectrum that they didn't even care, and she said they still texted for another 10 minutes with her doing the same thing. Copy, rearrange, text, or send. Now another quick story about this, and this is mine. The night that Dr. David taught this in one of his meetups and did the demonstration and everything, I'm in the back, I'm new to Planet David, and I'm like, bullshit. Yeah, no. It's not that simple. It can't be that simple. So, at the time, I had been dating on and off this lady for about 6 years, a little more. She knew me. We've had conversations. And so I'm like, I'm going to prove him wrong. I'm going to get caught. So I call her up and I said, "Hey, just learned a new technique. I'd like to swing by your place and teach it to you." "Okay." So I get to her place. She opens up the door and bam, I am echoing the snot out of her. And we talked for 15 minutes straight with me echoing her as hard as I could, trying to get caught. And finally, after 15 minutes, she goes, "Wait, weren't you going to tell me about some technique that you learned?" I went, Yeah. We'll get back to that. We'll get to that. I want to hear more about your day. Echo. Another 15 minutes goes by. "What about that technique?" "Yeah, we got time, but I love hearing about your day. Tell me some more." Echo. 45 minutes I've been there trying to get caught. Finally, I start cracking up. And she's like, "What's so funny?" And I said, "You know that technique?" Yeah, when are you going to tell me about it?" So, "Well, I've been doing it ever since I got here." "You have?" So I explained to her what echo technique is. And she goes, "Wait a minute, you mean you've been repeating everything I've been saying?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, technically I've been repeating everything you've been saying." "For real?" "Yeah, for real." I said, "But I got a question for you. How do you feel about the conversation that we've had for the last 45 minutes? She went, This is probably one of the best conversations we've ever had. I'm like, shit, he was right. Because she felt heard and understood and validated. Which tells you how much of a conversationalist I was before I learned echo technique. Mark.
Yeah, I teach it to increase rapport to clients, and I try to conceptually. I tell people, like I said, when somebody tries to communicate something, they've got something to say, and then it goes through all those filters, their beliefs, their rules, their memes, their values. So when it comes out of their mouth, this is processed as another person can make it. So when they, and it's like a key, again, the communication comes out, and the person gets their own words back. You can't resist your own words. There's no resistance, and the words go back in, click, like a key in a lock, and you get rapport.
Yep. And what you said, PJ, was 100% correct, because the best thing that your partner can say about you, that I teach this to guys a lot, is he gets me. He gets where I'm coming from. And if you are doing the echo technique correctly, I had one client, he had been echoing his partner for, his wife, girlfriend, for, a few days, and she was complaining they don't communicate. And after a few days of this, she told him, she goes, "You're beginning to get it." And he was just echoing. The best thing that a woman can say about you, because it's culturally not encouraged, in fact it's discouraged, is they always say, "Oh, guys, they just don't get us, they don't get where we're coming from." When you use the echo technique, they can no longer say that. Yep.
It's an incredibly powerful technique. And I teach it all the time. Like I said, it's a core thing that I teach to create rapport, build rapport in relationships.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Mike. Mark. Lenora.
I wanted to just say that when I first heard this, it felt like I was being taken advantage of. And it did, because especially the way that some people describe it. Not you, just in other people that do describe it. And so what I wanted to clarify was, it is a level of communication that shows that you are listening and that you're engaged. And I think that's the difference. Rather than giving back their words, I like to think of it as enhanced listening, enhanced focus. You have my undivided attention because I'm able to focus on your words and give them back to you, so that it feels natural, but also that you do feel seen, heard, and understood.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Holly.
Well, first, I just want to second everything Lenora said. When you actually go out, if you do it from a genuine place, and, we talk about state control with it sometimes too, they can feel your intentions. And if you do it from a genuine place, this forces you to listen to people like you've never listened to them before. So this is about listening to them. But something else that I kind of thought about here, that I never put two and two together on this before. So a while back, I took a mental first aid certification course. And one of the things they kind of talk about, so there's kind of 2 points that came up. So this is just kind of when we're using bigger words like maybe suicide or, something like that. A lot of people think they need to soften the word. And they think the harm comes from using the harsh word. But they've done studies and they've shown it's when you use the soft word that causes the harm. Because they are in a bad place, they want to talk about it honestly, openly, straightforward, and they are being forced to soften everything they say to have this conversation with you, because you are going to get triggered, because you're the one. So often when we're softening it for ourselves, for our own comfort, because we can't go to the real place and have real discussions with what's really happening in their lives. So that's one point. And then, of course, the other point is also keep in mind that your words mean to you what they mean to you, and their words mean to them what mean to them. So the perfect example I think that comes up that we've discussed before is the word problem and the word challenge. Some people in this group, the word challenge is much more empowering to them. The word problem, implies that something's broken, maybe. And a challenge is just something that I'm going to rise above it. To me, as soon as I hear the word problem, because I go back to the days of math, I always put the word solving after it. My mind just automatically does that. So to me, a problem is something that can be solved. A problem is easy. A problem is something that you tackle. Whereas a challenge might not be surmountable. It's some huge thing that's in front of me. Am I up to it or not? That's the first thing that comes to mind. Am I up to it? Not I am up to it. Am I up to it? And sometimes my mind will answer no, even though it probably should be answering yes. So that's another case too, where when you're echoing them, you are using their words, you are using the word that's most helpful to them. So just because the word triggers you or means something to you, keep in mind, give it a moment, use their word and see how they react to it. Because sometimes we do want to replace the word. Sometimes there's power in that too. But take a moment to really listen to how they're using it and what it means to them before you start replacing it, if that makes sense.
Awesome insight. Thank you for sharing it, and especially showing how universal this application is, especially, in the reasoning why you oftentimes don't want to change their words or soften regardless of the situation. Another area where it showed to be much more effective to echo words back, restaurant servers. They did a test and had servers do different types of replies, like, somebody would place an order, oh yeah, good choice. Or, yeah, oh, that's my favorite. But the ones that echoed the order back to the person first got better replies, better tips. Again, feeling heard, validated, and understood. The server heard exactly what I said. I feel better now because they validated that they heard it. I don't have to question whether or not it was heard. So lots of applications, that's why I'm constantly saying Echo Talk should be the one first thing taught to every human being on the planet right after Mama, Dada. It would be a lot easier place to live in. Any other inputs, ahas, epiphanies, questions on Echo before we move on? Yes. And how you doing, my friend?
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello from across the pond.
Been a minute. Apologies for my absence. But so before I jumped in, I was actually watching on YouTube for maybe the best part of 10 minutes. So I heard what was going on, and I just wanted to add one thing, and that is, have you ever considered the non-verbal echo?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's so powerful, it's ridiculous. If you were to copy someone's gesture that they made as they spoke, kind of like with the hand thing that I did just then, right? If you don't, you don't overdo it, and you certainly don't do it while they're speaking, but when it's your turn to speak, if they punctuate, let's say they punctuate, they say, there's this really important thing. And then when it's, they make their point of their important thing, and you're going to echo some of the words in that. But at that moment, when it's time for you to say your really important thing, if you do that little finger gesture, that's like a massive compounding effect on the echo. And you get so much rapport out of mirroring just one gesture. So keep in mind that it can also be done non-verbally. And in fact, in most cases, it's more powerful that way.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up, because one of the easiest ones to prove, eyebrow flash. When you meet somebody and you do a little eyebrow flash, especially if they do it to you and you understand what's going on, if you see them, and a lot of times people will eyebrow flash unconsciously. It's kind of, there are certain parts of the world where there are certain gestures that are much more expressive. Like you get around New York and it's, hey, hey. But in some of the more subdued areas, it's just that little eyebrow flash of their acknowledging that you're there. And if you recognize it as such and you do it back to them, that's another one of those mirroring that builds those little nuggets of rapport.
My God, a friend. They totally understand me. That's the feeling.
Right.
And if you if you pay, because everybody has eyebrow flash is one type. They call it an unconscious hello. Some people nod, some people tilt their head, some people raise, like not just the eyebrow, the whole head. Some people give you a little, hey, what's up, whatever kind of thing, right? And oftentimes it will happen 20, 30 feet away before they approached you and actually said the hello, right? You recognize this person from a distance and they'll give you an unconscious hello. It might be a little perk up, it might be a little head tilt, it might be a little eyebrow flash, it might be a little nod. If you can recognize what their unconscious hello is and do the exact same one back within a second or two, it's done. Like the rapport part is done. You're in already.
100%. Anybody else got it? And I can see we might not actually even make it through trifecta tonight. I've had this happen before. Anybody else got any questions, ahas, epiphanies before we move on to 3 magic questions and see if we can fit that in? Yes, no? Moving on? Okay, 3 magic questions. Woo! Now, this is one that has intrigued students, freaked them out, impressed them, all the above, all across the board, and it depends on how you take it. Now, the 3 magic questions are not 3 questions. They are 3 styles of questions, and you want to understand the mechanics behind them to know how to use them properly. Now, the first one is, as Dr. David Snyder puts it, location, occasion. I simply call it an open-ended conversation starter. You don't want to ask close-ended questions, yes or no questions. So you're looking for an open-ended conversation starter that is, trying to think of the words, it's not about the person that you're approaching. It's not a personal. So location, occasion means that if you're at a bar, instead of, yes, non-threatening, thank you, Elijah. You don't ask a question about them, you'd be like, excuse me, do you come here often? Are there any bar specials or any drink specials that you might recommend? What would be your favorite? It's about the location, not them. Occasion, you're at a wedding. So out of curiosity, how well do you know the bride or the groom? Which side are you here with? Again, it's not about the person, it's about them. Or it can be something that you notice about the person. And I utilize this all the time. And in using this with echo, I'm 6'4", motorcycle rider. When I've got my leathers, my helmet, my boots and everything, I can be a little imposing. But understanding Echo Talk 3 Magic Questions, I can go up to the hottest petite young lady that gets hit on by every man with a heartbeat and a hormone. And they've usually got their walls up to here. And I can walk up and go, excuse me, out of curiosity, where'd you get those shoes? Shoes? Well, they look great, but is there anything you don't like about them? And I'm into a conversation and it's not threatening because I'm not, hey baby, love your hair. And I'm going to try and keep this rolling as quick as possible. And so that would be magic question number 1. Location, occasion, open-ended conversation starter. Second one is where we start getting into the meat of rapport building. And that is profession, passion. Because so many people have their identity attached to the work that they do. That's going to be, so what kind of work do you do? I am a dentist. I am a carpenter. I am. That is their identity. But if you're already there and you're in Starbucks and the barista's there and you go, oh, well, what kind of work do you do? What are you passionate about? So when you're not serving coffee, what do you do for fun? What are you passionate about? And you get them talking about their passion. And the cool part is, and I've gotten a lot of feedback about this from my students and my clients, is they oftentimes are surprised at the answers they get about people's passions. Because they mind read that, Elijah, yeah, what do you want to be when you grow up? Another great type of passion question. But when you get them talking about their profession, their identity, their passion, things of that nature, they're talking about their favorite subject, themselves. And so many of us, me included, and I've had to learn this, we all want to share the stories. But the more you can get them talking about themselves, the more in rapport you become. Because you're interested in that. And when you echo the conversation, now you've amplified it even that much more. Any questions on that? I know I'm kind of slamming through this, but if you guys want to, yes, Mark.
Quickly, I know you want to get through this, but Dr. David explained this was originally designed for women, okay, so that they don't have to spend weeks and weeks getting to know somebody, whether or not there's somebody they want to be in a relationship with or somebody they need to throw back. Because when you're echoing, when someone's talking about their passion, they communicate the metadata, which is all their beliefs, their rules, their memes, their values, their ethics, their morals, their truths, okay? And I find that women are able to simultaneously echo and analyze the metadata. So see if there's rapport, see if there's is this someone I need to continue this with, or someone you know, I need to throw back. And you know, like I said, it was originally, I don't know, I joined the conversation a little late tonight, so I didn't know if you had already said that. It was originally designed for women, so that within the space of an hour, you know whether or not this is going to work. Okay, so I don't know if that was in earlier because I joined late, but
No, I had not brought up that it was originally designed for dating and women. And part of the reason that I didn't is I found that a lot of, especially the women, when they found that out, got offended and thought of it as a dirty trick that is used on people. And so I had to inoculate from that as much as possible that it's just another tool. It's a very powerful, important tool. Doesn't matter where it came from, as long as you understand how to use it properly and the benefits of it. But yes, that's where this actually came from. And I'm glad you brought it up because it shows that it was for conversational rapport building and testing. And one of the things that, because I work with so many relationship clients now, ABT, ABT, ABT. What is ABT? Always be testing. Always be testing. Always. And first time my wife heard that after we'd been married about a year, she goes, "Well, what, are you still testing?" I'm like, "Absolutely." And she got a little offended. And I went, "No, I'm testing more now than ever because I don't want to wake up one morning and find out that you're way over here and I'm way over here. Always be testing, figure out where we're at on the charts."
But I think there's a benefit to that because now you're more aware and in tune with your partner. So they should actually be happy that you are monitoring that. And if there is something that is going a little left, you have the opportunity and awareness to be able to plan out how you would like to talk about it because you kind of already know how they are processing and you which way would approach better and what environment and such. My thoughts.
Yep, absolutely properly spoken. Anything else before I move us on to question number 3 so I can at least, Elijah?
You can spend a long time at this second level.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Right? And you can happily remain there.
Yes.
And I'm sure you're about to mention this anyway, but you should be weeding out the people that you don't want to progress further with using these first 2 levels, because once you go to the next one, it's going to be hard to get rid of them because they're going to really, really like you a lot. And I know this from experience. I honestly do. So really, it's a filtering system, and it's for you to figure out, especially if you're using it in a relationship context, it's for you to figure out which ones you're going to throw back to the ocean and keep fishing for someone else. It's kind of, you could spend hours, days, weeks at this level and be very happy with the conversations and the thing. But if you get to the next part, it becomes intimate very quickly. So, warning.
Hey, what a perfect intro for question number 3. But I also want to point out this is for all types of relationships: business relationships, tribe relationships, neighbor relationships, the cashier at your favorite store relationship, all the above. These apply to every conversation that you have. And the cool part about using this out in public is it's free practice, and it makes other people feel good, and they don't even know why. Bonus.
And so they assume it's you that's making them feel good. You see, when someone tells a joke and people laugh, they say, that's funny. You tell another joke, oh, that's also funny. You tell 3, 4 more, eventually they'll say, you're funny.
Yes.
Right? And they'll associate it to you. And it's the same thing with the good feelings and the rapport.
Yes.
At first, they won't know, oh, I felt good today. I had a really nice conversation today. I made a new friend today. Da, 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 da. At some point, they're going to attribute those positive emotions and feelings to you. That he makes me feel good. She makes me feel good. Every time I'm with them, I have this kind of feeling. And it's going to get associated.
And yes, you can be considered funny making 4 jokes, Lenora. I know, I prove it all the
I
time.
have 4 to memorize.
Well, obviously this first hour is going to be simply invested into trifecta as we try to squeeze in magic question number 3, which is early positive childhood memories. Early positive childhood memories. And this is where, as Elijah correctly pointed out, you want to be careful with going into this realm, because if you do it, I don't want to say improperly, but properly, if you do it properly, not mindfully, you could easily have a stalker. Prove it. And so when bringing people back to early positive childhood memories, the mechanics behind it is when they bring up these childhood memories that are positive, they also get all of the good feeling rushes. And while they're feeling those good feeling rushes, who are they looking at? You. And you get connected, just like Elijah said, you throw 4 or 5 good jokes, you're funny because you made them laugh and feel good. You also, when you are bringing up early positive childhood memories, this is where you really want to listen to the response, to the answers inside of the response, the information inside of the response. Because when you get to this area, people will open up their closet and show you their skeletons just as happily as they will show you the good stuff. I know, seen it, experienced it a number of times. And they don't even catch it because they're talking about their version of their childhood memories. And one example that Dr. David gave so well is, so you say you're in the family business, so what was it like when you were young? You know, what was your favorite part about growing up in a family business? And one response, oh yeah, it's so cool because I got to go to work with mom and dad and hang out with everybody, and it was just like they were a family. And someday I know that dad's going to want me to take over the business, and man, I just hope that I really can, do those guys justice for all the help that they've given me through the years. Versus, so you grew up in the family business, huh? So what was it like growing up in? Oh man, I tell you what, it was like I could never leave the house, and everybody was trying to be my parent, and I tell you what, when Dad finally kicks the bucket, I'm moving out of the basement. I'm taking over and I'm going to show them who's boss. And it's going to be done my way and they're going to listen to me. And you'll get the same response with just as much passion on both extremes. Yes, those were very extreme edges, but you got to listen to the response. Now, one thing that I would like to point out, and the universe graced me with an amazing experience to explain this last part. It took me about 45 minutes to go through echo and 3 magic questions. We haven't even gotten to values and criteria elicitation yet. So we didn't even finish the trifecta. You got a twofer. But in the amount of time that it took that, I promise you you can do echo talk and 3 magic questions in a very, very short amount of time when you understand the mechanics behind it. And I proved it to some of our students one day when we were teaching in a hotel down in San Diego that was near the airport. And a lot of airline crews stayed at this airport. And we were teaching class on the 5th floor. It's like day 3 or 4. We'd already covered echo talk, 3 magic questions, values and criteria. And it was time to break for lunch. So we go to the elevator. I've got 6 or 7 students with me. The elevator door opens up. We get in. There's an airline captain. He's got all the bars and the hat and everything. But Ray Charles could see this dude was having a bad day. I mean, the energy, the weight in that elevator, I'm glad the elevator was in good shape because it would have crashed. And as the doors started closing, I looked at him and I said, out of curiosity, how long you been flying? And he looks up, he's like, 18, 19 years. I went, wow, 18 or 19 years. So were you like the 5-year-old in the backyard with the toy plane putting on 1 billion miles? Eee! And he looks up and he goes, yeah, I guess so. I said, well, I'm glad you guess so because I want to let you know that I fly a lot and so do a lot of my friends. And I appreciate people like you that have such a passion for flying since you were that little 5-year-old in the backyard with the toy plane getting us to where we need to go safely. Bing! Elevator doors open. And his energy, his demeanor, everything, 180-degree shift. And I said, after you, sir. He says, thank you. You have a good day. And I said, you have a good day too. And I kind of held the students back until he turned the corner. And I said, okay, what did I do? And they said, dude, you echo talked and 3 magic questioned him. I said, absolutely. And how long did it take me? 30, 45 seconds? I said, yes. And what did it do for his day? Dude, you completely changed his day. It can be done that quick with that much power. I didn't need his name, didn't care about getting to know him or anything. I knew his profession. I echo talked him. I brought him back to when he was a child playing with a toy plane about his passion, his profession. Echo talked him. Like that. And he went from a visible shit day to happy, smiling, walking away. Mike.
And that works with just about everything, whether he played with toy planes or not. He went back into that 5-year-old state and he's like, man, it's awesome. Good stuff.
That's why it's so powerful, Elijah.
If it turns out in that situation it doesn't quite go as smoothly and he corrects you, that's actually a good thing.
Yes.
let's say you say, oh, so you were the 5-year-old with the toy plane running around like "Meh," like that, right? And he says, well, actually, it was me with my arms spread going "Meh," like, and he corrects you. Like you're just as much in, and you've got ammunition now because he's given you the keys to take it that one step further, right? It's almost like in hypnosis when you know a suggestion has been accepted and then you can play off of that suggestion and keep it rolling, kind of thing, you know?
And potentially you may have even gotten in deeper with him with the correction because he went in back, checked the files against your story and went, no, actually the correct is, and you know he accessed that file. And I get to do this all the time. That's why I say this is one of the most amazing gifts that you can give anybody, anywhere, anytime, costs you nothing. The only, and I'm going to point this out, the only thing you have to be aware of, people will get so enamored in your conversation, they will lose track of time, and you can get people who are working into trouble. I know, I've witnessed it many times, especially when our students would learn it for the first time. There was a restaurant nearby, and those poor waitresses got hammered with Echo Talk, 3 magic questions, values and criteria. They loved us. The manager had a love-hate relationship with us because the manager would be like, you got 12 other tables you got to take care of. And when they would come over, guess what we would do? We would do it right to the manager as well. And all of a sudden the manager's sitting there, oh, and chit-chatting. And I'm not saying that we got lots of extra chips and salsa and things like that, but it could happen. Maybe. But real quick, I'm going to answer Mike's question. So how do you end a conversation gracefully? Lenore's going to laugh. Depends. That's my answer on lots of them. You directed it. Keep it headed the direction you want it to go. Thanks, Michael. But the cool part is you get to end it and walk away with them feeling better. They don't have to know why. That's why one of my questioning affirmations written on my mirror is, whose life will I change for the better today, ... even if I don't know about it. The other one is, what will I be grateful for today? And I'm grateful for you guys. We got through 2 parts of the trifecta, and the hour is up. And I know that, Chris, this is your first time on Triple T, so the way it works here, and for those that are watching online or watching the recording, I teach as much as I can of 3 subjects that I pick for the week. For the first hour, and the second hour I open mic, open platform. Anybody on the call can bring up any question or topic they want to. I allow anybody on the call to answer first because I still like to learn as well. And if there's anything that I feel I can add, I will do that after everybody else. So I know, oh, Mark, I didn't mean to cut you off. You had a comment on the last part, and then we'll open up the platform.
Just real quick, I was at a convention in Pennsylvania, and this girl was selling tickets, and I started to do the 3 magic questions. She stood there for 20 minutes and talked to me about her passion for horses. And then after about 20 minutes, her meta program cut in. She's like, I got to go sell tickets. I'm like, hey, I'll be around all weekend. She's like, you better not buy any tickets from anybody but me. I'm like, hey, you're my girl.
Yeah.
20 minutes, she talked to me about her passion for horses. And she went to the third question almost immediately. I was 5 years old. My mother put me on a horse, and that was it, but it was, but yeah, that, literally they do get lost when they're talking about the thing that they're passionate about, their childhood memories. And, but after about 20 minutes, her meta program cut in. She's like, I got to go sell tickets. And, yeah, again, sometimes ending that conversation is, again, if they're like the waitresses, I got to get back. I got to get the stuff out of the kitchen, you can end that conversation gently,
And I'm so glad you brought up two things there. One, I forgot to point out, there are three magic questions, but they do not have to be done in order. When you understand the mechanics behind what they do, like I say, if you're already know what they're doing, this or that, you can jump past question number one. Like in my example with the airline pilot, I went straight to number three. I didn't ask him, what his profession, passion, none of that stuff. I went straight from, how long you been doing this? Were you the 5-year-old? So you can bounce it. Again, it's understanding the mechanics, what those questions do, why and how, to know how to utilize them most effectively. And also when you brought up the how to cut off the conversation, especially with people that are working, I love this conversation. Can hardly wait till we have another one. I want to make sure I don't get you in trouble. So you have an awesome day, okay? But yeah, I've literally had some checkout people that were like following me towards the door, and I'm like, the other people in line are going, what the what? Or I'll be having a conversation with somebody in line and use trifecta, and they're hanging out with me while I'm getting all the stuff checked out, and we'll walk out into the parking lot having a conversation. So again, it's a great way. And for people that hate small talk, especially like introverts, great technique to learn, because you don't have to do hardly any of the talking. You just set up the platform and the other person just yaks away, and when you get a chance, you echo a little bit and you let them get back to talking about their favorite thing. So, sorry I got 10 minutes into your guys' hour. Who's got question topic for, yes, Holly?
I'll just jump right in. So my question is, so I have two kind of competing pieces of advice that I hear a lot, and I'm trying to figure out how to reconcile them and how to know when to go one way and when to go the other. So the two pieces of advice, the first one, we talk a lot about, we are the people in interactions, whether it's social interactions, romantic relationships, whatever. We have studied this stuff. We have the tools. So, instead of expecting the other person to change, we kind of are probably going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting sometimes. And then also, if you listen to Jocko, he talks about, extreme responsibility. There's a lot of, it's not my fault, but it is my responsibility to clean it up. But then on the flip side, something I get advice I hear a lot is, if you're in an interaction and the other person believes something that's not true about you, or they're very hostile towards you, whatever it is, there's some kind of toxic dynamic. often the comment is made of, that's their problem, not your problem. You can't change it, step out. And I've made the mistake of going the wrong way in both of these. There have been times when, being a people pleaser and afraid of rejection, that sort of thing, I've gone too far into taking somebody else's stuff on for the wrong reasons. There have also been times when I want to use the easy out of saying, it's their problem. They're not getting it. I'm not going to do the growth. I'm not going to do the hard thing of trying to make it better. I'm just going to, so how do each of you kind of balance this idea of when you're having, say, some dynamic that isn't going well? How often do you step in and say, I'm going to see what I could do. I'm going to delve a little deeper and take some responsibility and explore? And how often do you say, you know what? This is not my problem. This is their problem. I'm going to let it go, and I'm going to let them own their energy.
Who's got an answer for that great question? Jade.
So, I think one of my favorite things in life is repair and relationships. And of course, there's those times where repair might not be the best idea, and you might have to love that person from afar as well. So, I think your own healing is most important. And so when someone triggers something inside of you, being able to actually feel, like, take a moment to yourself to feel what you're feeling and kind of trace back to where that's stemming from, so that you can tell if it's something that doesn't even have to do with that person, that they're just, triggering inside of you, or if they're actually doing something. And I think when you do work on yourself like that, you can start to get a lot more clear within yourself. And, that's where in any relationship you can decide to always take responsibility for your half of whatever that was. And so if that was an argument, it might not be, I'll give you an example. Something that I struggled with in the past was feeling like I was having a boundary crossed, and so I would get really loud or felt like I needed to express myself, or yell to get the person to hear me or listen to me. And of course that doesn't work. But I would be saying words that I actually meant, but I was saying it in a way that couldn't be received or heard. And so for me personally, it was like, okay, well, what can I take responsibility for that I actually did to contribute to what's happened and the problem? So being able to self-reflect and look at, what did I do that has contributed to this, and then take responsibility for that. So for example, if I said something I meant, I can apologize to a person, say, for okay, I'm sorry that I spoke to you the way that I did. I should have spoken more calmly. If you said something mean, that you realize maybe you shouldn't have said, taking responsibility for that. I'm sorry that I said this thing. I was angry and that wasn't right, that I responded that way. But always looking at your half and how you contribute to it. In any situation, that might even be if, for example, some sort of third party gets involved in the situation and it's more than just one person, how am I contributing to the dynamic that's playing out? What's my energy giving off? And what am I getting out of this sort of interaction? Or even if it's a fight or something like that, what am I actually getting out of it? Am I feeling like a good person? Like I'm the good one here? Am I taking on the wound that I had in my childhood of I'm the bad guy always? So having that ability to really self-reflect on that and really feel what you're feeling and looking at where it's coming from, I think is the most important thing, so that you can, repair relationships when you have had those breakages, and you can take responsibility for your part of it, because there usually is going to be some sort of contribution. It might not always be, and I would say that those are the times where you can just let somebody else take full responsibility, is if you really have observed and you've really looked at everything, and found I really didn't do anything to contribute to this at all. This really was that person, some issue. Maybe I triggered something within them that they haven't dealt with. Then, yeah, let it go and let them take responsibility for that. And if as best you can, forgive them for that because they probably don't know what they're doing. And eventually, what will happen, it may or may not happen, but I find that a lot of times what happens is eventually they come back and they've self-reflected eventually and they've recognized what they would have liked to do different or better. And they may apologize for that or they may not. But, that's their half, right? So that's all.
Good answers. Elijah.
Firstly, bravo, Jade. That's really well said. Thank you. I don't want to oversimplify it, but know your outcome. If you're having an engagement with another person and it's not going the way you want, what is it that you want right now? Do you want this person to leave you alone and go away? Do you want this person to better understand your position? Do you want yourself to better understand their position? Do you want to shout and scream and get it all off your chest? Do you want to give them a silent treatment? What's your outcome? That's the first step. Know what you want, right? Secondly, be willing to see things as they are, not as they should be or as they ought to be or as you wish they were or as they used to be maybe, but as they fucking are right now. Excuse my language, YouTube, right? But see, because in order to change anything, you must first be willing to see it the way it is now. And one of the biggest problems I had in my life was this idea of me telling myself that things weren't that bad. And I was going to try and fix them even though they weren't that bad. But the truth of the matter was, things were bad. And I was not okay with it. And it was not until I was willing to see that for the way it was and take stock of the situation with 100% truth and no sugarcoating that I actually then grew enough within myself to see what needed to be done or what could be done by me. And obviously not everything can be done by you, right? Some things are, as Jade was saying, that it's the other half. It's not in your reach, right? So know your outcome, see things the way they are, and then you make your choice. And you don't always make the right choice, and you can always course correct, you can always apologize if you made the wrong decision, you can always try again. But those first two are non-negotiable. That's
Good
it.
answers.
Sure.
Anybody else got anything before I add mine? Come on. Lenora.
I love what everyone was sharing. That was so helpful. Jade and Elijah, absolutely fantastic stuff. The only other thing that I was going to add was, and it might go right in with know your outcome. How important is the person to you? Sometimes we can just obsess over things that might be a tertiary person versus a primary person in your life. If they're in your kingdom, if they're in your circle, if they're in your tribe, or are they somebody at work and it was just kind of something that was coming up and it was bugging you. And was it really that, or was there something else that was bugging you? And this just happened to add to it.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Well, one thing that one of my squirrels and Chris, just so you know, my squirrels have squirrels. So stuff pops in, and people that that know me well are like, here we go, squirrel fest. One of the first things is the concept of three brain. Is there anybody on here that has no idea what I'm talking about when I reference three brain? Chris, are you familiar with three brain concept?
I've heard of it, but it's been a while, so I'm
Okay.
refresher.
Three brain is the concept of the three brains in your body: your head brain, your heart brain, and your gut brain. And when you're dealing with these types of issues, especially with other humans in their natural environment, sometimes it's a good thing to take a step back and interview all three brains independently, because your gut brain oftentimes has the ability to go, or this is what and of course the heart wants to be like, but I just want to help him. And that's where I also brought in protective empathy. Especially for those of us that are in this industry, we've developed a level of empathy, and we're probably more aware of our empathy than the majority of human beings. But we have to learn how to also use that as a way of protecting ourselves in, wow, it sounds like I get the feeling that you're hurt. It sounds like you have a story. It's not my story. It's not my energy. I'm here experiencing what you're listening to what you're going through, but this isn't mine. I'll be glad to help you, but only to an extent. As it was pointed out, is it somebody close to you, or is it somebody you just met? What is your investment? Is it a stranger on the street? Is it a client in your chair? Is it your parents, a sibling, or a high school friend that you remember didn't have you? Friend means you knew each other's name, but they didn't really, hang out with you. And you have to take a real good look at that, because one of the things, especially those in our community, as David liked to call us, we're a special kind of stupid. We're the ones that are willing to dive into people's manure pile to try to save them, sometimes at the cost of our own energy. And you have to be able to evaluate, is this battle worth the fight? Or can I stand on the sideline saying, you can do this, now go do it. I'll be here when you're done. So it was a great multi-leveled question with so many different facets to be able to answer it. And as Elijah pointed out, in the end, you need to know your outcome. Why are you willing to do what you are willing to do? And that'll come into your values and criteria, which we didn't get to. But you're going to find that some of your cornerstones of your values and criteria are straight up icebergs. People know you've got certain values and certain criteria because they see this part. They just don't understand how deep it is and how unshakable it is. And that's good. Because you need a good, strong foundation to keep you from being pushed around and blown away by, again, humans in their natural environment. Anybody else got any answers for Holly's question? Yes.
So, I guess it's kind of like being able to defend your outcome and to have the strength and the plan and the skill set to be able to do that. Because the whole theory of always be testing is not just for us going out, it's for other people testing us. And they'll always be testing borders and seeing where the soft spot is. I have a 1-year-old Australian Shepherd that is always testing limits, always BT. And yeah, I definitely feel like the guard, and I've got the prisoner because every time I turn my back, naughtiness. So, yeah, we need to. I need to work on that. So, thank you for bringing this to the table.
Another squirrel just delivered this thought as well. Airplane rule. What do they tell you on the airplane? When the oxygen mask drops, put it on yourself first so that you can help the other ones that are too dumb to figure out how to operate a mask. I mean, no, that's not what they say, but it's kind of what they say. Because some of us are so empathetic and want to help people so much that we would go, what are you doing? That's not how you do it. And here we are putting their mask on and we don't have ours on yet. And if they don't know how to run their own, they're certainly not going to be able to help you when you pass out. So airplane rule. You first. And then you got a whole tribe that you can call upon if the feces gets too deep. Because when it gets past here, it's hard to see. I know, I've been that deep in it before. Any other ahas, comments, epiphanies that you want to add? Did you get your question properly answered, Holly?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Thank you, everyone. So many downloads, so many new thoughts on things. Thank you. And that goes for everyone.
Awesome. Well, you know what that means. That means that we've got 31 minutes left for a new question, new topic. So who's got one? By the way, Chris, this lull, this silence right here happens every week. Because we have what I jokingly refer to as the polite chipmunks, if you're old enough to know. No, after you. No, after you. Well, I didn't want to. No, really, after.
What's criteria and values?
Who would like to dive in and answer that?
Well, don't make me answer it. I asked it. Someone else do it.
Rules are I answer last, so, and I know that I'm looking at a few people that know the answer. I know.
I mean, like, what does criteria even mean?
Holly.
All right, I'll take the first stab at it. Actually, I'm realizing as we go into this how often we talk about it and how long it's been since I've had the actual definition. The way I've defined it for myself, which a lot of stuff I've learned, especially in like Dr. David Snyder's world, I've given it my own definition. So I apologize if this is not the definition everybody else has. So criteria and values. so first step is all of us have things that matter to us. And you can ask that question, what's important about that? What's important about that? You can really dig down till you find those. And we have some things that matter, for our whole lives, maybe certain things that matter in a context. So if you're buying a new car, do you care more about the price or do you care more about the features? Do you care more about being comfortable in it? Do you care if it can be repaired easily? There's a whole bunch of different things that you're weighing in that decision. But the other thing though is we have words, labels that we give to those things that matter to us. And those are words that we don't all define the same way. So the example that's almost always given is the example of respect. So if you have two people in a relationship, they both may say, my top value is respect. And if you just throw the labels around and don't figure out what that label means to that person, you could get in trouble. So let's assume one person says, respect means to me that you tell me the truth no matter what. You're willing to tell me the hard things. You're willing to give me that feedback. You don't beat about the bush. You tell me exactly exactly what the truth is. And the other person says, respect means that you value my feelings. And you're willing to be soft with what you say and take my feelings into account. Well, if they don't know they have such different definitions of the word respect, they think they share the value, and they both give each other what they think what they would want, and it ends in a disaster. So the reason we use criteria and values is because the values are the things you care about that are important to you. The criteria is that checklist of how you know you're getting that label. So that's when you drill in and say, what does respect mean to you? So hopefully that's the way close to how other people define it, but that's how I've always understood it.
Bravo.
Damn.
That was so good. That was so good. So there's this word, my favorite word. What's my favorite word, Lenora? It's this long word. Nominalization. Nominalization. A nominalization is...
You have lots of favorite words, so I'm glad that you filled them blank because hands down, it was not coming up.
One of my favorite words, nominalization. A nominalization is when you take a verb and turn it into a noun. In language, that's what it means in linguistics. Okay. For our purposes, it's when you turn a process into a thing. And that thing is like what Holly was describing. It could have different definitions to different people. You can't go to the supermarket and pick up a pound of confidence and put it in your cart and go to the checkout and buy it. It's not a tangible thing. It's a concept. And so what does confidence mean to you? What does confidence mean to you? What does confidence mean to you? And we might have different things. Someone might turn around. I might tell you my definition of confidence, and someone here might say, that's not confidence, that's arrogance, right? And so criteria is, how do you know when you're getting it? That's the question, right? If we're talking about respect as the value, the criteria for the respect would be, how will you know when you're getting it? And then the person will then define what that criteria is. It's almost like being given a checklist of things that need to be true for that word to make sense the way it does in their world. And if you can figure out what people's checklists are and what the criteria that define their values are, then it's incredibly easy to influence them, because it's very, very, very hard for somebody to go against their own criteria and their own value. If you can link, let's say we're talking something simple like sales, if you can link what you're selling to have the value which is supported by the exact criteria that they are looking for, and you add some scarcity maybe, right? It's going to be very difficult for them to not pull out their credit card and pay you. It's going to be very difficult for them to walk away. Yeah, Holly hit the nail on the head. It's how do you know when you're getting it? What does that word mean to you? What does that value really mean?
When I do couples work, one of the things that I do is I ask each couple to come up with a list of, well, something is the criteria, a word that they truly value in a relationship, or all relationships, and it could be respect, communicate. I've heard some, some off the wall ones, but and Holly's right. Sometimes you have a definition disconnect where both people are talking about honesty, but his definition is you got to tell me the truth, whether or not it hurts my feeling or not. And hers is, well, I want you to tell me the truth, but in a way that doesn't hurt my feelings. So you get a definition disconnect of the criteria. But then I use another technique. I combine it with Dr. Gary Smalley talks in his seminar, Hidden Keys to Loving Relationships. And I ask the question, how do you feel most loved? Is it the words, the auditory? Is it kinesthetic? Or is it visual? Is it the little things the other person, does for you that makes you feel most loved? So then you kind of get their primary channel, their secondary channel, their tertiary channel. And then you ask the criteria, what is a quality that you truly value in relationships? And there's the value, and how they I have them if they have I say, well, if you're going to be talking to a young child, how would you define respect in very simple ways? And how do you know? And the third question is, like, how do you know that the other person is satisfying that thing that you truly value in the way you need it satisfied? So, and I have them do three, those words, the criteria that they truly value in a relationship, what their definition is, and how they need to have that value demonstrated, whether it be auditorily, whether it be verbally, whether it be visually. And then I take the two pieces of paper and I give them to the other partner, so that they have something that they know what it is the other person, what is it that makes them feel most loved, and the criteria and values that they need to have demonstrated within the relationship. And if you know that information about another person, you're not going anywhere, because this person understands you. So I use it as a as a tool in therapy, so that they get that criteria and values, and I combine it with the how do you feel, what is it that makes you feel most loved, and synergistically it increases the value of that thing, because now those three things that make you feel most loved in the order that they make you feel most loved, as Dr. Gary Smalley teaches, that's the combination to someone's heart. So you get the combination of somebody's heart and the things that they truly value in all relationships. And it's been very successful.
Awesome. Great stuff. One thing I do want to point out, understanding values and criteria. And by the way, yes, I say it values and criteria instead of criteria and values. And Dr. David and I butted heads on that a couple of times. And the reason is because I'm a bit of a linguist. There is such a word as criterion. So when you've got criterion values, well, that would be the values of a criterion. But there's no word that's values and criteria. So I specifically rearranged it to values and criteria. I don't know, OCD or CDO, because that's alphabetical, the way it should be. But one of the reason back to squirrel, is understanding that when you elicit somebody's values and criteria, You also have to understand the easiest way to get rid of a person is to elicit their values and criteria and violate them. And it can be done accidentally, or it can be done ninja style with malice. It's not hard when you know somebody's values and criteria to go in and lance them and hurt them just like that. And I proved it to a couple of our students in class because they didn't quite get it. And I said, now, I can prove this to you, but you have to understand this is only an example. And I had this one lady that she was like, well, I still don't get it. And I said, do I have your permission to violate your values and criteria only as an example? She goes, well, fine. Yeah, sure. And so I struck up a little conversation, used a little echo talk, little 3 magic questions, got some of her values and criteria out, and I took her values and criteria and threw it right back at her in the opposite. And the visceral response she had, pissed, just like, how dare you? And I went, hey, this was only an example. I don't believe what I just said to you. I said it to show you what happens when you violate somebody's values and criteria. She admitted at the end of class that day, she was angry at me for a half an hour. She had to constantly remind herself that I only did it as a demonstration. But she got it. Oh, she understood.
Bro, when I thought someone violated my criteria, I was mad for weeks.
Yeah,
weeks. I was sitting there like plotting my revenge. Do you know what I mean? Kind of thing. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's really horrible, especially if you think they did it on purpose.
Yes, worse.
You know what I mean? Then it's like it's really, Michael. Yes. Michael.
Got to go back to what Jade said, and forgive them because they don't know. The heaviest thing to carry is a grudge. It's like,
well, in this case, I think the guy knew.
It's right,
Yeah.
though. Some people do know, and you have to learn to
because this was an NLP guy, and I think he knew. I think he knew. Yeah.
Well, the way I describe that to people is it's getting hit in the head with a 2x4 sucks, but there's 2 different ways to have it done. If you're following somebody who's carrying a 2x4 on their shoulder and they turn unexpectedly and crack you on the long side of the head, it hurts. But if they look you in the eye and take it and crack you alongside the head, it hurts differently. And values and criteria violations are that way. When you understand that somebody came up and violated your values and criteria on purpose,
it's
looking you in
personal,
the
dude.
eyes.
It feels personal. It's like an attack. You know what I mean? Like, nah.
Yep.
So I was steaming, man.
That's why that lady was so she was so angry. It was I ain't gonna lie, it was kind of cute because we had 4 of her friends. It was actually her friends that were in the class that had to keep reminding her, he told you what he was doing and that it was just, yeah, but it just, yes, he did it well, but it was just, I know, but that's how well it works. And that's why you have to understand the mechanics behind the tool. It's like getting to see all of the little building blocks in their foundational beliefs. That's the metaphor I use for values and criteria. It's all the little building blocks of the foundations of your beliefs. Some of them you got from your parents. Some of them you got from where you grew up. Some of them you got from experiences. And they all come from different places, and sometimes you get a chance to look at some of the ones that you got from your parents and go, doesn't apply anymore. That block can be removed. Some of them you find out that the information that you built that block out of was incorrect. Can sting a little bit, but you can remove that. But there are some values and criteria, like I said, that are full-on icebergs. People around you can see that you have this value, but they have no idea how deeply set that is. And they can try and argue you out of it. That thing is made out of pure titanium, and it is a mile deep and 2 miles wide. Elijah.
Do you think, Ben, that when you get triggered by that violation of your criteria, that it is an opportunity to maybe learn yourself better, understand yourself better,
Yes.
figure out why, and what, this is the real question, what do you think are some cool or easy or beginner-friendly ways that you could do that?
That self-awareness, what you just brought out, when especially for those of us that start to understand this and the importance of understanding values and criteria, when something offends you, the people who are still asleep just know that they're mad and they're offended. Those of us who have studied and woke up a bit can have the ability to go, why does that bother me so much? What was it about that person that rubbed me so wrong? And sometimes you need somebody to help walk you through it, because sometimes being the driver and the passenger of this vehicle can be a little challenging. And so that's why those of us in this industry really need to have a good friend in the industry that won't judge us when we go, got this thing. Do you mind helping me figure this out? Because I can't drive the bus and be the passenger at the same time. And I'll be one of those people, especially for you guys. Because I know I've needed it myself. Besides, this right here, y'all don't understand the therapy I get from this. You guys showing up, I love you guys. Seeing Fran's amazing, beautiful, smiling face popping in all the way from the other side of the planet, just, Anybody got any thing else they want to add to that? We've got 10 minis left. Jade, did you want to share your comment that you put in the... Now that I've got everybody on, because the people that watch the recordings, they don't get to see the chat info. And for those that are watching, if you're watching the recording and you're thinking sometimes that there's only 3 of us on the call that are chit-chatting, the recordings online don't show any of the cameras that are off. It'll only show people that have their camera on. So I've had a few recordings where I'm the only one on there for a while, and looks like I'm just having a wonderful conversation with myself, which has happened before, but I usually don't reply quite as much as I do when I've got other people to talk to. So back to you, Jade. Squirrel.
in relation to what we were just talking about, I was stating 2 questions that you can ask yourself in those situations. And the first one is, what does this mean to me? That's so bad. And the second one is, what does this mean about me? That's so bad. What would this mean about me? That's so bad. And when you ask that question, you really want to ask that question without compromising, because it tends to be that, parts of ourself will try to dominate by being like, well, it's not so bad, or no, it's not that big of a deal. But we want to go at it, those questions, from the perspective as if we believed it was really bad, right? And that's when we're going to get down to those beliefs that we're holding deep down inside that are actually causing the pain, and is what's sort of directing our mind and what it's been scanning for outside of us and finding, and then poking those wounds that we have. And that's what's going to create the awareness, so that when somebody does trigger that wound, you go, oh, I know where that's coming from, and you can recognize it, so that you're in a place of being able to observe what is actually the truth in the situation right now. Is it just that I have this wound that was being poked at because I'm being reminded of it? Is this person actually saying that, or is it the truth? Right? And so I think those are 2 really good questions that can help a person come to self-awareness in those type of situations.
And I'm going to jump in real quick and say this is also an excellent place to ask 3 brain. Ask each of the 3 brains those questions independently, and you're going to be surprised at how different an answer you're going to get from each brain. And one thing I forgot to add in when I was explaining 3 brain is most people who don't understand the concept of 3 brain, your head brain is like the oldest sibling who answers to you, the parent, and will, every now and then, it may hear the gut screaming, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And you as the parent go, what's going on? And the brain goes, he's not, it's fine. Or if you think of it as a kid, and all 3 brains are in the cereal aisle, and you as the human, the adult, goes, what should I eat? And the gut brain goes, well, I think we should go with the rolled oats because they're healthy, and I think that would be the best choice for us. And the heart goes, oh, but remember when Grandma used to get us Cocoa Puffs? I want Cocoa Puffs because I'm thinking about Grandma right now. And the head brain listens to them and goes, whatever, we're having Wheaties. That's what they said. They all said Wheaties. That's what they want. We're going with Wheaties. And so when you take the time to ask important questions like this independently and get really good at listening to the responses that you get from your gut. And women, I'll hand it to you ladies. You ladies are far more advanced in listening to your gut brain and your heart brain than us guys are. Us guys
we
are...
have a 4th one down there.
Yeah, we got... Yeah. forebrain and the top and the bottom speak, and the two in the middle are like, hey! So you ladies probably understand this a lot more than us guys do.
Jade alluded to something in the chat that sometimes you inadvertently trip over someone's values and violate it. And if it happens on a regular basis, the fellow that wrote The Tipping Point said that that's contempt. And contempt will destroy a relationship in less than a year. So when when you inadvertently violate someone's values on a regular basis, that's contempt. And contempt, like I said, is the one thing you can't come back from, and if you act contemptuous of someone's values. So, sometimes you inadvertently violate a value, but if you do it on a repeated basis, that's contempt. And contempt will kill a relationship in less than a year, according to the fellow that wrote The Tipping Point. Yes, he said it's been retested, with like 92% reliability. Gottman. There you go. Thank you, Holly. And but that's, like I said, but that's repeatedly violating or someone's values, and I think that's that could be an operational definition of contempt.
Squirrel. Another thing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that you are also taught how to protect your values and criteria and put up a defense against it. Like certain generations were pretty hard to rattle. And I hate to say it, but some of the latest generations, their values and criteria are pretty sensitive. Quite a bit sensitive. And that's part of it as well. And I think part of it is also built into knowing yourself, knowing your values and criteria and what's really important to you, and not being confused about and what certain things are considered to be an attack or a violation. You got to admit, lately, everybody's values and criteria, I like the blue sky. How dare you? Oh my gosh, I'm so offended. I like the clouds. You don't like clouds. Yeah, I just... Like, really? What? But that's another form of values and criteria violation. Jade, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that was really funny. I just wanted to add in there that, one of the things I think is people inadvertently run over each other's boundaries all the time, and those are just learning experiences. That's it. You're just learning about each other, and that happens, and that's why repair is so important, and that's why I think it's also important to assume that people aren't intentionally hurting you. But when they continue to do it again and again, and if you communicated that boundary, that's when you'll notice anger starts rising more and more. And, something that's really interesting that I find about that is really we might be even getting angry at ourselves for crossing our own boundary.
Yes.
And feeling powerless to change it, but we're feeling powerless within ourselves because we keep crossing our own boundaries. So I think that's an important kind of thing to look at, and then go underneath the anger into the sadness really that we're feeling, that we're allowing our own boundaries to be crossed.
Great point. And now I've got 500 squirrels lined up that want to address this. And unfortunately, my Tiki Talk says that we've used up 2 hours just like that. And ironically, that would have tied directly into self-talk because self-talk is also building your own values and criteria. One of the ways that we violate our own values and criteria, oh, I'm going to do this. Oh, I'm going to get up early in the morning. Snooze, snooze, snooze. Oh, I'm gonna do this. And eventually, even our inside self is going, bullshit. You do this all the time. You lie to us all the time. Stop. And so you have to pay attention to that as well, Elijah.
And then once they've convinced their inside self that they're full of shit, then they try to say something like, I'm going to start a new business and make $1 million next year. And the part of their brain inside like, yeah, right, bullshit, right? And it's like you don't have that alignment anymore.
Yep. Yep.
But we could talk about that another time. I do have an excellent presentation. If ever, you need someone to fill in, TJ, I have an excellent presentation when it comes to that. Getting your inner self to believe every word you say.
Well, we've got an hour free next week.
Oh yeah.
Well, of course.
I'll have to really streamline it to fit it in an hour. But
I know the feeling.
I will do my best.
I tried fitting the trifecta, self-talk and positive manifesting in an hour. We got
you always bite off more than you can chew.
Yeah, but I got a big mouth and I got lots of support, and I adore the bejesus out of you guys. And
so wait, are you for real? Are we doing this? Am I doing this next year?
Hey. Send in the reliever, the left-handed specialist, Elijah.
Well, remember, the rules for Triple T is I teach for the first hour. The second hour is open platform, open mic. Anybody can bring up a topic, ask questions, whatever. So if you want to come in,
if you guys are interested, next week I will let you in on something called the Magician's Fourfold Law. And David, Dr. David, we all praise oh so very much, teaches it as a threefold law, and he left out the most important one. So I'm going to teach it the way I learned it from the guy who taught it to David. If that gets you excited enough.
There you have it, folks. Right here on Triple T. And
I think that's our first coming attraction.
Yeah, I think so, yes. But those of you that have been around for a while know exactly where I have to go right now, which means I have to say that I respect the 2-hour limit I put on this, because time is the only thing that I have not figured out how to manufacture and give back to you. So for you guys to invest your very precious commodity here on this platform, it means so much to me. I literally don't have the vocabulary to tell you really, truly how much I appreciate you guys. So put in whatever vocabulary means the most to you. I love and adore every one of you. For those of you watching live, love you, Mom. And if you're watching the recording, please do all the YouTube stuff. Smash subscribe and ring the bell and do comments and comment on your comments and all that good stuff. And for the next 7 days, please go out and live life the best you can. Make the world a better place. Make as many memories as possible. And I look forward to seeing your amazing faces back here for Triple T number 115. Love y'all.
Thank you, Hermano.
Ha
Thank you.